So the reason we wanted to have Dr. Kruse on was a lot of the stuff that he teaches on his website, jackkruse.com, is where we came up with this idea. I'll give you a brief background. In 2011, as a 45-year-old, I was playing soccer every week with 20-year-old kids in an open division and doing kickboxing and jiu-jitsu 3 times a week. After moving into a house, a year later, I had gained 40 pounds, had high blood pressure, my vision was going bad. I had headaches and brain fog and fatigue, sleep apnea, all kinds of digestive issues. We really couldn't figure out what was going on. Went to about 6 different doctors. And finally, in 2015, here in Texas, we had been going through a drought. In 2015, we had a lot of rain. We figured out we had mold growing under our house. And the mold had made me really sick, causing a whole bunch of health issues. And after going to about 5 or 6 different doctors and being told you're just getting old, it's in your head, you're crazy, I stumbled onto Dr. Kruse's website and started looking at some of the protocols and things that he put in place. And one of the big things he promotes is, among other things, is blocking blue light. So we started changing out light bulbs in the house and getting rid of the LED lights and compact fluorescent bulbs, and going back to incandescent bulbs that were tinted either yellow, amber, or red. But that wasn't doing enough. We started wearing blue blocking glasses. And my wife and I have been married for a long time. We have 7 kids. And trying to get the kids, especially the teenagers, to incorporate these new behaviors in blocking blue light and getting them to agree that their screens were causing some kinds of issues for everybody. They wouldn't wear the ones we could get off Amazon, and the other ones that were out there didn't have many frame styles for children, especially women. My 17-year-old daughter and I decided to start a blue blocking glass company and incorporating a lot of the things that I'd like you to ask Dr. Kruse about with blocking blue light. We saw a hole in the marketplace for families and especially for children. So our target is protecting children and families' eyes from the harmful exposures of blue light. It'd probably be wise for me to stop talking and let Dr. Kruse talk about the science and the medicine behind what blue light does and why it caused so many health issues with me and the mold exposure.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, I have 3 kids myself, and they're on the devices and, late at night, and it messes up their sleep. And my wife and my youngest, the eye doctor told them they have very little pigment, I guess, in their eyes. So they're very sensitive to, light in general. So I'm glad that we're having this call, because I'm probably 100% certain that we need you guys' stuff too. So, yeah, so let's get into it.
Maybe, Dr. Kruse, you can kind of explain the mechanics behind it.
Well, I mean, the key question is, you have to understand blue light by itself is present in the sun, but it has 6 other colors with it. And it turns out that blue light has to have its antidote within the sun. That's present. Red light is always present when blue light's present. In nature. It turns out with our artificial devices, specifically screens, default factory settings are set for something called color temperature. Color temperature is 5750 for most screens. That's consistent and congruent with solar noon. So that means every time your child or you look at a screen that is not protected, your brain gets the message that it's solar noon. And that screws up the circadian mechanisms in your eye. One of the things that you just said about your own kids that's quite interesting is if the pigment is reduced in the eye, that pigment is actually stimulated by full spectrum light, specifically light that has both UV, blue, and red in it. That part of the eye is called the retinal pigmentum epithelium, and that pigment is actually melanin. That's the same thing that's in our skin. And generally, when you're blue light toxic because you're using too much technology, you have multiple different risks, but all of them stem from lowered melatonin levels in the brain. And it turns out when melatonin levels are lowered, we also know that dopamine levels are lowered. That leads to psychological problems. It also leads to hormone problems because dopamine is one of the guardians of the pituitary gland. Melatonin happens to be a guardian for organelles in your cells that actually make all the energy in your body. In allopathic medicine, we have this focus on DNA and RNA as the be-all, end-all. But it turns out we're learning from major researchers like Doug Wallace that all energy production comes from the mitochondrial genome, and that's a genome that not too many people talk about.